Today, I'm not going to be showing a trick, but I want to talk about the importance of scripting. Scripting is a conversation that professional magicians, or even the very serious hobbyists, never have the conversation. They just don't. They know scripting is essential. On a lot of the chat forums and Facebook groups, you'll see people, oh, I don't script because I know my trick, I know my routine, I like to improv with the audience, and there's a lot of this. Every professional magician I've ever talked to, and if you're on like the Magic Cafe, there's a lot of them there. All of them say script everything. I come from kind of a theater background, so I'm used to having a script, and I enjoy the solid foundation that a script gives. Sorry I haven't made a video in like forever, but I've had some health issues, and I moved to a different island. I'm now on a little resort island. The big island that I was on, I still have my house, but I'm in an apartment now on a smaller island, and my studio is at the house. My good microphone, lights, the whole setup. So this is just on my cell phone with this little mic. I apologize if the lighting's not good or the sound is not good. Life's tough, but I live at the beach, so we make do. I'm gonna look away because I don't have my teleprompter here either. So I'm going to read a quote, because this I think is very important. This really sets kind of the whole idea of scripting. One of my favorites, Greg Wilson, wrote in a Paul Harris book about scripting. He says, a good performance is like a tree. The trunk is your tightly scripted material. That is solid, that is not going anywhere, that is your foundation. When you get really good and comfortable, you can branch off, go out on a limb. But when those little improvisational twigs start to break, you come back to the safety of the trunk. When the improvisational twigs become more usable, they become part of the branch. The branches become part of the trunk, and the trunk gets bigger and bigger. Everything becomes more scripted, but it started impromptu. Kind of a long quote, but it really does cover everything. If you're doing theater like Shakespeare, there's not a lot of room for improv, okay? You go out there, the audience is there merely to watch. You do your script, you do your, it's the same. It's Shakespeare. But people know that and they expect that. Something happens in the audience, you ignore it because it's not part of the play, okay? In a magic performance, it's different. You've got a live audience, something weird happens out there, you kind of have to acknowledge it. Hopefully it's not a heckler, but whatever's going on, it's live. You're sharing this experience with the audience. So you will have to do some improv. You will have to interact with the audience, or at least you should, because it would be weird, something happens and you just ignore it and you go on with your trick like nothing happened. That's kind of weird. But when you've got that solid foundation, you've got that script, you can go off on these little tangents and you can kind of play with the audience and do whatever. But when you need to come back to the performance, you come back to your good script, your solid foundation. I did a show a while back, and I was told the amount of English was going to be pretty good. I was told incorrectly. So I worked out this script. I worked real hard, got the script, wrote it, edited it. I was on like the 6th or 7th rendition of this whole script, 30 some odd pages, however long the script was for this. It's about a minute a page, And as soon as I start, first thing I'm like, hey, does anybody have their favorite magic word? Because someone's supposed to yell abracadabra so I can do the stupid have a banana, the multiplying bananas. I look out. not a reaction, just blank stares. And I'm like, oh crap, they don't speak English as well as I was led to believe. And so someone was calling out in Korea, which is their language, do you have any, magic words? And they're all kind of like, oh, they'd never seen a magic show before. Maybe on YouTube, but they'd never seen a live magic show, so they didn't even really know magic words. And I'm like, oh wow, this whole script is gonna fall apart. But because I had a good script, a good solid routine, as I'm going through, now the video of it, the lighting looked good in person, but it looked terrible on video. It is posted and it looks bad, and I apologize. Maybe you can see it, but in this beginning part, I'm like panicking. I'm like, so I'm going like into the next bit, and I'm like, okay, cut that. Oh, those 3 paragraphs? No, cut that. And I'm editing as I go. And I'm just like, okay, cut this. Lean heavier into the physical comedy, not the verbal comedy. And if I was going to go up there and just wing it, I think I probably would have possibly panicked. But I had a good solid foundation. I just had to chop it apart. It was like I was editing on the fly. And it was a very weird thing, and I wouldn't recommend it, but it happens. But I had a good base, so I could like, okay, cut this, cut that. Oh, that's way too long. Don't talk that much. And so I edited down, but knowing the routine, knowing the trick, knowing certain things need to be said or done at a certain time, I was able to continue the routine, but edit the script as I'm performing it. And it was a bizarre thing, and it was a learning experience. Had I not had a good script, I would have been in trouble. I would have struggled. When we were planning, it was just going to be a housewarming party, and my wife is like, oh, you can do a couple tricks for the kids. I'm like, well, I don't want to I can walk around and do some tricks. Oh no, we'll set up like a stage. You can do a couple tricks. And I'm like, well, that doesn't work that way. If I'm going to get on a stage, I'm going to have an act. And she goes, because she doesn't know the difference. Whatever, just do some tricks. I'm like, so I'm writing this script, I'm putting together, made a list of all the tricks that I'm like my A game, the stuff I really know, that's age appropriate, that, I was making this list and narrowing it down until I got the dozen or so that we were like really good. And then I picked out 7 or 8 that I wanted to do, had to figure out the order, start writing it all up. And it took much longer than I thought it would. I used Google Docs. There's an enhancement, one of the add-ons you can get that does the actual script formatting. I like using the Google Docs because I can type on my phone, my tablet, my PC, wherever I am, laptop, and you open up Google Docs and it's right there, it's up to date. You don't have to worry about making copies and keeping it around. But using that little add-on to do the script formatting was a little clunky. It worked and it was fine, but I found one just recently. Actually, it was by Stephen Colbert and some of his people. They needed a script writing program that is designed for collaboration. I don't collaborate with anybody, or I haven't yet, but this program is really nice. There's a free level. There are pay versions, which I wouldn't need to get into, but this does different script formatting, and it's really slick. The address for it's kind of odd. I'm not used to I guess I'm getting old. It's app.scripto.live. And I will put all that on the screen. It's really nice. It's got a pull down list so you can say if it's a scene heading, action, character, parenthetical, dialogue, transition. There's a whole list of different things. So when you tell it what it is, it formats it properly. So your script looks like a script, which I really like. And without it, you're over here counting tabs and spaces trying to make it look right. So it's a really easy program to use. It is free. And because it's on the web, you can log into it from any device, phone, tablet, PC, laptop, whatever you're on, and you have your script. So it's as easy to use as the Google Docs, but kind of easier because it's designed as a scripting program. I really like it. I don't know how much it costs for the full version, but for what I need, the free version is more than enough. It's really slick. It is designed, like I said, for collaboration. Different people can come in and y'all can sign in together and work on the script. I'm not going to need that part of it because they actually, Stephen Colbert and some of his people made this to use for the TV show. And now a bunch of shows are using it because it's a great program. When you're putting together an act, you want to have, it's not like a story exactly, but there should be an arc of some kind. Something is happening. The show I just did, I come out first thing, I'm trying to introduce a bit and some rope falls out, and I go into the professor's cheer, the one where you're pulling the rope out of your sleeves and your pants and it comes out, you got your underwear tied to it. It's just goofy. And so I'm coming out like braggadocious. I am this great magician. And as I'm trying to introduce some trick, some other trick goes wrong. So you never see the trick that I'm introducing, and you never see the trick that rope was supposed to be for, because the whole thing's just a gag. But it sets the tone of, I'm an idiot. Magic is fun. Let's have fun. This is like my conceit. It's just magic is fun. I don't come out with top hat and tails and, wow them with my mysticism. No, I come out as a goof. Because to me, it's more fun. When I was a kid, we had David Copperfield and Doug Henning. And nothing against Copperfield, but I much preferred Doug Henning. It was just more fun and lively, and he was as amazed with the magic as he wanted you to be. And I like that interaction better, instead of coming out, look what I can do that you cannot. So the beginning, I come out doing the professor's cheer, which is just a complete fiasco. I do a disappearing Coke bottle, which goes wrong. It turns from a big Coke bottle to a small Coke bottle to a baby bottle of milk. Both of those would be neat tricks if that's what I intended to do. But it's supposed to be disappearing. And at the end, I'm sucking on a baby bottle because I'm an idiot. So even the tricks that could have been good weren't, because that's not what I intended. So I failed twice. It doesn't come in. That's one of those kind of what Silly Billy calls the wah-wah ending, because it doesn't happen the way it's supposed to happen. Then I have an audience member come up, help me with a trick. Things go wrong, but the audience member fixes it. So my scene partner helps me, and we get the trick, and it's finished. Then I do a trick by myself, which goes wrong, and the whole audience works together to help me fix it. Finally, I do a trick where I bring up a scene partner, I get an assistant, and everything goes perfectly. So as I'm going, I'm getting better. So it's not like a story, and most people wouldn't even notice that that's what's happening, but it kind of helps me make the tricks all work together. I'm not just doing a trick, doing a different trick, doing some other trick. It's a progression. Pop Hyden has a really neat character right now. He's this kind of snake oil salesman, like a cowboy carny. And he talks about this whole backstory that his whole troupe has. It's never talked about in the show, but it's their backstory. They are cowboy carnies. He was a snake oil salesman. Through some experiment, I don't even know if he says how, somehow they come to the future. So they're trying to fit in. So they'll pick up pieces of our tech. They're still cowboys. And so it kind of turns into the steampunk looking things. But he has this whole backstory, this whole story of who his character is that's never talked about, but it gives him a base to work from. And so to me, when you write a script and you have your act, that through line, that story doesn't necessarily have to be telling a story. It just has to kind of be there to give me something to hold on to and to work with. So I found that a good way to approach it. You need to get a premise. Who does what and why? And why is the most important question when you're scripting. Why is this happening? What's, we use weird props. We pull out these big steel rings and we hook them together. Who has these rings? This is not a real thing. So you have to come up with why. What is this for? What's the point? Where does it come from? Because it's not part of the normal house. No one walks around and has these rings, the amazing rings of China, made in India. You don't have those. So you got to come up with some reasons. Why is this happening? Who is doing this? Why are we doing this? And why should they care? All of that's handled in the script. John Archer uses the acronym FIRE. It needs to be funny, interesting, relevant, and entertaining. So if you're doing a comedy routine, I think most magic has some comedy in it anyway. If they get too serious on the magic, I lose interest. I really do. I don't know about other people, but when someone comes up and they are the magician and they're magical, I'm like, yeah, we know it's a trick. I can't buy that persona. If you can pull it off, go for it, but I've never been able to buy that persona. It's a trick. We know it's a trick. You know it's a trick. We all know it's a trick. So make it entertaining. Throw in some comedy, But that FIRE, funny, interesting, relevant, entertaining. That's a good way to just keep as you're writing, look at it and think, does this fit? Does it serve the script? Does it serve the trick? When you're editing, edit brutally. And when you've chopped everything out you can, edit some more. Cut it out. Because it goes, some of these I'm writing and it goes on for a whole page. Nobody wants to hear you talk for a whole page. Do something, like this. Nobody wants to watch this. They want to see tricks. Sorry, today's a lecture. Pete McCabe has a couple of very good books on scripting. Scripting Magic and Scripting Magic 2. The names work. They tell you what it is. But he uses some, I don't know if this is like an industry standard, but he has a standardization he uses on names. And I used it in my scripting. Alex, being a gender neutral name, is any person, anywhere. Lee is a person on your left. Chris is a person in the center. And Ricky is a person on your right. So it's L, C, and R, left, center, right. Because there are times you need to turn over here talking about something or talking to someone so you can do your fiddly business over here. So you need to know which way you need to face to cover a move or to do whatever. So there's a lot of that is planned and you put that in your script. He also has Adam is any man and Eve is any woman. Say you've got a certain joke, you need to talk to a woman or a man for that joke. None of these necessarily are who comes up on stage. On stage, you could still use the same naming, because when you're writing a script, you got to call them somebody. Actually, in my script, everyone was Alex, because mine are all any person, anywhere. If I'm talking to someone out there, it's Alex. If they're on stage, it's Alex. Because none of mine were gender-specific jokes or gender-specific helpers. Sometimes you might need like a big strong man to put a pink tutu on. I don't know, whatever you're doing. So sometimes you need to know if it's man, woman, whatever. And so I used his notations the way he did in his book for my script. First, I made a list of all the tricks, narrowed it down to the ones I wanted that would fit the age group, the routine, to kind of fit them together. So I ended up getting 6 or 7 tricks that I wanted. As I was scripting them and rehearsing them, I would rearrange the order to try and get it to flow. Because at first I didn't know that I was starting out stupid, getting better, and at the end I'm actually teaching them a trick and doing a trick, that works perfectly. So I didn't really realize I was doing that order. So as I was writing the script, I was like, oh, that kind of works. And it gave me a flow, and it gives me kind of a reason. So I would rearrange them. I don't like have segues to go from one into the other, but it kind of, everything flowed. But I would start, let me see, made a set list. I have a whole page I have a couple boxes that I bring the set, what's exactly in which part of the box and exactly where. I wrote all of this down so I know when I set up, the Coke bottle is here, the baby bottle is here, coloring book is here. Everything was exactly where it needs to be. I knew which table went where, which tablecloth. It was all written down. So my whole setup was part of the script. This just helped me keep everything together. When I'd get into each trick, I would try and do this on one page. I would have the setup, the effect, and the outline. The setup would be basically what I need, where it is, where I get it. Like, I need to have the ice cream in my pocket. So I have to make sure what's where for that trick. The effect is telling what the audience is going to see. Like on a Professor's Nightmare, they see you show 3 ropes of different sizes, you put them together, stretch them out the same, tie them together, untie them, they're different sizes again. Just real quick, what is the effect? You don't get into how it's done, just what are they going to see? Then I do the outline, and outline does a little more step by step. Present this, do this, and I still don't get into necessarily the instructions of the trick. You should know that already. I don't script that. A script is written from the audience point of view. It is action, it is dialogue, it is the magician comes out. You can say he comes from stage left, does this, says this, shows this. You don't say you do a French drop. It's he shows a coin, puts it in the other hand, it vanishes. You tell it from the audience point of view. When I was first writing the script, I was doing just stage directions. I do this, I say this, I do this, me, and it was like, I was looking, it was like, this is not right. Because I've done theater and script is always from the audience point of view. So I had to take a step back, start rewriting it from the audience point of view. Tim comes out, magician comes out, however you want to write it. He says this, he does this. And so I was writing it from the audience point of view. When I'm showing the outline, it's kind of a mix of what the audience sees, what I'm actually doing, because sometimes you got to say that, what your fiddly bits are. You kind of say this is done at this point, this is done at that point. So the outline, I've talked to people that only outline, they don't write the full script, but even a good solid outline, it's pretty close to, you don't have the dialogue in it, but if you can work that way, that's good. You can do just a good solid outline, and it might be enough. I like having the script, but I went ahead and did, and I tried to keep it, like I said, on one page. The setup, the effect, description, and the outline. Just, it sets everything up. The outline breaks down the main parts of the trick. Then I would get into the actual script, and it's all formatted with the dialogue this way and the action lines this way and the parentheticals or the notes to myself. And I like having that layout and that form because I'm comfortable with it. I can look at it and I know this is dialogue. this is stage direction, this is action, this is notes. And I like having that format. It gives me a good foundation. If you can work straight from an outline, that might be enough. Either way, because I found my outlines were good enough that the script kind of wrote itself. I was like, oh yeah, this outline covers everything. And then I would just add in the actual dialogue. And I like having the dialogue fully written. You can video it or audio it, just so you can hear it, hear the audience reaction. Maybe film the audience so you can see the audience reaction. And then you go through the script and go, this line worked, this line not so much, this needs to be tightened up. And you can see what works and what doesn't, and you adjust your script. If something happens and there's some good ad-lib, there's a heckler and you get some good line in, that works its way. If it's good, it works its way into the act. Most of what you see that is ad-libbed on stage is not ad-libbed. It may have started as an ad-lib the first time it happened, but eventually there's only so many things that they're going to say or do, and you know what they're going to do or say within reason. So when they get to whatever their bright idea they think they are the first one to think of, you've heard it 100 times, and you've got 4 or 5 different responses ready for it. So it's not as ad-libbed as people think most of the time. I used to work at a Renaissance fair, and I would go to the show, and it was word for word. Their ad-libs, just everything, their smart aleck remarks, everything was the same every single show. And I was there one time when something actually happened. The audience did something weird. I don't remember what they said. And the guy came back with a really good comeback. It was snappy. And you could even see he was surprised because he'd been doing this act for 30 years. And here was something different. It was so funny. It was immediately put in as a permanent ad-lib. And it was neat seeing it because I knew his routine well enough to know that one really was an ad-lib. All the other ad-libs were not. But I was there the first time it happened. And then later he put it in as if it was some random funny thing. And it was just, I enjoyed seeing that because I know he is very tightly scripted. It's a knife throwing act. It has to be tightly scripted. You're not ad-libbing when you're throwing knives at people. So, and he threw knives at the audience members. That's got to be an insurance nightmare. But this one was so great because I knew his script because I'd seen him for years. I worked at the festival, so I knew them and saw their show 1 billion times. And when he actually had something that was truly ad-libbed, off script, and his comeback was perfect, it immediately became part of the act. Just straight away, it's in the script. But he was able to do any of this because it's so tightly scripted. That's why it's so important. You need to play with the audience. You want to have the audience interaction, and the script gives you the foundation. You know you can always come back to, this is what we're doing. As you're writing the script, you know this line needs to be said, or this movement needs to be done to cover this movement. But some of the other stuff is flexible. So it gives you the freedom to go follow the little tangents and play with the audience. You get a good audience member, a good assistant. There's a lot of room for playing, but you always have your foundation to go back to. And a good script gives you that foundation. Speaking of scripting, this whole thing wasn't scripted. So that's really stupid. I've probably babbled on way too long about the importance of scripting, and I should have scripted this lecture. Such is life. But I'm just waiting for the rain to stop because I wanted to go to the beach and get lunch, and we got rained out, man, bummer. So I've been planning this video for a long time, just never got around to it. It's been hectic, had health issues. I moved to a new island. Life's tough all over. I do have a really cool production box. I can show a folded up empty box, open the box, show it empty, reach in, start pulling out just tons of stuff. I've started the video, but I haven't quite got there yet. I've videoed making the box, and I have not yet videoed performing it. Next time I'm back at the house, I will do that, because it's going to be a fun video. It shows how to make the box, what kind of stuff to put in it, and just tons of stuff comes out of it that goes back into this empty box. It's a very cool box, and that should be coming, I would say soon, but I don't know when I'm going to go back. I haven't been back to the house in a couple months. I guess it's almost time to go back eventually. Next time I'm at the house, I'll film that. I hope. Work on your scripting. Edit mercilessly. Have fun. And keep practicing. For more detailed instructions and pictures, please visit the blog at FreeMagicFun.com. Keep practicing.